When the MG brand got into the hands of the Chinese, it had a bit of an overhaul. It stopped being about sporty hot hatches and started to be about more sensible, practical and well-priced modes of transport. The MG ZS is one of the reasons why MG's been so successful, because they came out sort of all guns blazing with something that was really quite sensibly priced and ticked a lot of boxes for a lot of people. This is its replacement. It's the MG S5. I keep wanting to call it the 5S, so apologies if I do that 100 times in this video, but it is the S5. This one's in trophy long range trim, but there are 3 levels available. So it starts off with the SE standard range. That one's got an LFP battery. They're all fully electric, by the way. That one's priced from just under 29 grand, 211 miles of range and 8 second 0 to 62. If you're scared by any of these prices, by the way, check the link in the video description and you'll see the current lease prices available on these cars. Then you've got the SE long range. That's got an NMC battery, £31,000, 298 miles of range and 6.3 seconds to 62. And then we've got the trophy trim. This one's got slightly larger wheels and therefore you lose a little bit of range. You've only got 288 miles of range on this. This one's 33.5 grand. But it is absolutely fully loaded. You're wanting for nothing on this trim level, really. Now, I don't think we talk about real world efficiency enough in car reviews, and I want to touch on that in this car, because it's a car that doesn't have a heat pump. Not a problem today because it's absolutely scorching. It's 29 degrees at the time I'm filming this. But in the winter, certainly my experience with the MG4 is the battery didn't particularly like the cold, and it wasn't particularly efficient in the cold weather. Now, on a day like today, you might think, well, fantastic, the battery's at a great temperature. However, I'm running the aircon really cold, and actually running cold air in the car, particularly when you're hammering it a bit, is not that great for efficiency. But over the last few days, I've had some fairly varied use with the car, and I'd say locally, you can easily get sort of 4.3 miles to kilowatt hour. I've seen it as high as 4.6. But at motorway speed, you're looking more like 3.6, somewhere in that region. It does vary a little bit, obviously, but that's kind of roughly where we are. And the long range versions of the car have got 64 kilowatt hour battery, so you can probably do the sums there for yourself. But obviously, everyone's use case is going to be different. The temperature varies. How much you use the aircon or not is going to vary, so just keep that in mind. Charging speeds are okay, but nothing exceptional. 139 kilowatt maximum rate of charge on this trophy long range, and 7 kilowatt if you're using a home charger. There's no 11 kilowatt or 22 kilowatt option, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for most people. As far as boot space goes, you've got fairly respectable and pretty competitive 507 litres. And we've got a little bit of underfloor storage there where the charging cables live, and a big bit of polystyrene in there, and some tools and an air compressor, etc. underneath that. You've also got these useful side compartments, and generally it's a really good shape. What's not so good, however, is we've got no frunk. Then it just annoys me a bit when we don't get a frunk on an EV. That space is there. I'm sure it's all being very well used, but I think a bit more clever design, even if we just had enough room to put the charging cables in, would be really well received, wouldn't it? Okay, folks, on to the interior, and this is very much a happy story. I think MG have done a great job here, and this certainly feels like a real step up from where we were with the ZS interior and from things like the MG4, on which this car's platform is based. Let's start with the infotainment system. It just feels like an upgrade. It feels snappier, it feels sharper, and thank you, Lord, MG have listened and they've moved the aircon controls away from the main screen and given us some controls here. If you give this little thing a twist here, it changes the temperature. Who'd have thought? You can also change the fan speed. You've got volume control, and you can change the direction that the air is traveling. So that works fantastically well. It's very simple, nothing flash, nothing overcomplicated. That's all it needed to be, and they've hit the nail on the head. The sat-nav's okay, but not the best thing in the world. You do have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is fantastic. That works well with the system. A couple of times where I feel like the screen could be a tad more sensitive, where I've found myself stabbing at it sort of 2 or 3 times instead of the usual ones, but minor issues. Driver information display is perfectly good. I much prefer that to one you get in BYDs actually. I think that looks really quite decent, nice and clear and crisp. And you get quite a decent amount of information on there, which is quite customizable as well. You do have to dip into the menus if you want to turn on one pedal driving, but it's worth doing so because the one pedal driving works really well. Obviously that's going to save you on brake pads and also help you regen a bit of power back into the battery. Down here we've got a suede Alcantara covered wireless phone charger a la Tesla really, but that's really well done. And there's also a little place to keep your phone if you don't want it to be charging. You've also got a couple of cup holders, and we've got some nice leatherette kind of stuff around this, so your knees not smashing against a bit of hard plastic. Underneath that center console you've also got some storage space with a rubber mat, so things are not sliding around everywhere. But your USB-Cs are in here, which might not be the most convenient place for some people. That is quite capacious in there, so you can fit plenty of stuff in there. The driver assistance systems, they're better than they have been on other MGs. At no point has the lane keep assist tried to take my life as it did in a couple of the MG4s that I've reviewed. And although some of the warnings and things are still intrusive, they're nowhere near as bad as they used to be. I just want to show you a few things on the driver assistance features, and it's quite easy for me to do this way. So here we go. The steering wheel has a couple of custom buttons. One is here and one is here. You can set those to do certain things, and on the screen I've set one of those to take me to the car settings, and the last thing I was in was MG Pilot, so that will return me to that. Now MG Pilot, your driver assistance features, and you've got them all there. Emergency lane keep assist, audible warnings for various settings, lane departure assist, you want that on or off? Let's turn that off. You'll see driver fatigue monitoring, rear collision warning, door opening warning, all that stuff's there. So far so good. If you want a really quick way to go back to your normal settings, in most cars you have to go and change everything every time. In this one you just hold down that button and that's then saved as your preferred setting. So when I get back into the car to go to my preferred settings, I can just press my custom button on the steering wheel, come up here and then hit that, and it will turn everything off that I want off and leave everything on that I want on. But in the test drive section of the video, I'm going to leave all those driver assistance features on so you can hear them binging and bonging in real time. I've also got like really squidgy plastics up here, and a lot of these materials feel more premium than you'll find in actually some of the Korean cars and some of the German cars, a lot of the German cars. And that's quite impressive on an MG, which, as we all know, has been a brand in recent years that's been built to a price. They've done a good job with this. Little touches as well, like just some of the leather trim on the seats, or leatherette trim on the seats, is adorned with like an MG logo. Nice little touches that shows you that someone's thought about it. They've even got some faux carbon fibre up here that looks and feels quite nice. I'm really pleasantly surprised by this cabin, I have to say. The steering wheel's very much the same as we've seen in a lot of previous MGs. There's nothing really wrong with it, so I guess it didn't need to be fixed. So rear cabin, and the first thing to talk about is the footroom. We've actually got some. Lots of manufacturers now raise the height of the floor, but they leave the seat in the same sort of relative position. So you end up with just enough room to stick the end of your big toe, and that's about it. I haven't done that in this one, so that's quite nice. And knee room's pretty decent. This is in my normal driving position. We've got about that. I think you'd be fine in here at over 6 foot, and headroom wise, again, you're not going to have problems in here at 6 foot. You could get 3 adults across the back. Even in the middle, you're going to have a bit of foot room because we don't have a big hump there. And we've also got a really squidgy central armrest. Material wise, it feels all right. It's a bit hard, but it feels durable enough. The seat material is nice in this. It's sort of a leatherette and a cloth. And down here, you've got one USB-C. It's not ideal. You'd rather have 2, wouldn't you? But I guess you could put a doubler in there if it's got enough juice to power 2 devices. A little bit dark maybe. We don't have any kind of sunroof in this or panoramic roof or anything. We do have a bit of seat back storage, which is always good. And generally, it's a really nice rear cabin. And I think your passengers are going to be very happy in here. Folks, I'm leaving the bings and bongs on in this video so you can hear them and make up your own mind. As I said before, you can turn them off, but I'd just like to leave them on in all my videos. This is a really nice car to drive. When you're going over a really bumpy surface, as I just have been and still am a little bit, you will feel some of those imperfections in the road. But it feels nicely weighted between sort of comfort and performance, and the ride quality is generally really quite good. And because this car is based on that MG4 platform, which was a car that handled brilliantly well and actually gave you far more driving pleasure than you would expect. It seemed like a car at the time that came out with a good price point, had a decent range, it was fairly well spec'd, and it looked like a car that would be very sensible and good. And then we all got into one and thought, wow, this drives really well, and it puts a smile on my face. You don't quite get that same level of pleasure, if you like.
The speed limit is 30 miles per hour.
Naughty, I was doing 31. You don't quite get that same level of pleasure that you get in the MG4, but we're in an SUV, aren't we? So we're not expecting that. But it is way more involving a drive than you would get in a lot of its rivals. You know, it's rear wheel drive. The ride comfort's good, but it also feels nice and planted at times. So it does strike a nice balance, and I think it suits our roads quite well. MG have been here for a while now, haven't they? And I think they've learned a bit along the way. They've learned how to give us perhaps what we want. And I think the fact we've now got some physical controls for the aircon suggests that they do actually listen. And that's a skill that some other manufacturers could learn to do a bit better at times. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I've already spoken about the efficiency in the car. We don't have a heat pump. We don't know how well it's going to behave in the winter. Perhaps I'll get another one in the winter at some point to have a look at that, or try and do a long trip in one and see how we get on. But I think it's okay in terms of its efficiency for the kind of car it is, the kind of size it is, the kind of performance it's got. Whether we need all 200 and odd horsepowers or not in a car like this, I don't know. I don't particularly need a 6.3 second 0 to 62 time in a family SUV, but I'm not angry at it for being there, I have to say. But maybe that power could have been wound down a wee bit just to try and help us get a better real world range from the car. Because, you know, one thing that is lacking is there's not one that's going to do in the real world 300 miles. And this is the kind of car you might do 300 miles in a day in, and you may not want to stop and charge. But these are minor little gripes really in what's otherwise a very impressive car.
The speed limit is 30 miles per hour.
Thank you very much. A lot of people will probably look at this car and say it's boring and it's soulless and all those kind of things. And the fact is, when you drive it, it's just not. It has got a little bit of personality to it. Not all of its personality traits are welcome, like those driver assistance things. The indicator noise is a bit... But these are minor gripes in what's otherwise a really impressive car. And I'd have no qualms about getting one of these, to be quite honest with you. Obviously with MG there is a little bit of a spectre of reliability. They haven't had the best performance in some of those reliability surveys. I think you can always take those results with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but they have performed particularly badly in some of those. Some of them seem to be software issues which have since been ironed out. But obviously when you have a car in for review for a week, it's impossible to say if it's going to be reliable over the long term. It's just something that you need to keep in mind, is that they haven't always performed that well in reliability surveys. Now I've got the trophy model at the moment. I think the sweet spot's probably the SE long range. They'll probably sell a lot of those. They'll probably lease a lot of those. And I think if you go for that, you're around about 30 grand if you buy it. If you're going to lease one of those, there are some really great lease prices generally on MG. You will often see discounts at dealerships on new models, on pre-reg models. I think it's a car that's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck, and it's better than I expected it to be, and I expected it to be pretty good. So in summary then, we've got a car with a decent enough range. It's well equipped, it rides well, it handles well for an SUV as well, which is perhaps surprising. And it seems fairly well priced against its main competition, things like the Skoda Elroq and the Kia EV3. There are certainly some areas as well in the interior where the materials feel a bit more premium than in either of those two cars. And you might think that's a controversial statement, but just go and poke around in all three and you'll see what I mean, I think. So it does offer a little bit of value for money. You know, this is a strange thing to say about a £33,000 affordable car, but they're trying hard with this one, and I think generally they've done a really good job. The interior quality does feel like a big step up from previous MGs. The infotainment system feels a little bit livelier than in previous MGs. MG have listened to us and given us physical controls for the aircon, which is about blooming time, but it works way better than it did before. And there's really a lot to like about the car. In terms of cons, I guess, you know, MG talk about their 7-year warranty quite a lot, but when you actually dig into that warranty, a lot of it's only 3 years and some of it's only 12 months. So it's worth really understanding that warranty. Don't just go into it blindly thinking, wow, I've got a 7-year warranty. It's not without one or two caveats. Styling's perhaps a wee bit dull against some of its rivals. Certainly when you look at something like the EV3, granted, some people will hate the look of it, but some people will love the look of it, and it does look different. You know, this is a wee bit generic, is it not? And I suppose the other thing is, although the car's replaced the ZS was a tiny bit smaller than this, and this is probably more akin to like an electrified HS, but it's also sort of replaced the MG5, which was a rare beast, an electric estate car, and it was a very good one. I hope at some point MG gives us another estate car. You know, there's a lot to talk about an MG4 estate possibly coming. And if the upgrades they've made to this one, the little tweaks they've made to this one are anything to go by, I'll definitely look forward to that, because the MG5 was a really decent electric estate car. And I think they probably understand the UK market fairly well and are building cars that seem well suited to our roads, etc. And I think that it'd be a great thing to have a more affordable electric estate car, because at the moment we've got what? The ID7. Thanks for watching this one, folks. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. YouTubers always talk about that, but it does give us a little smile on our face when we see an extra subscriber. Also gives us a smile on our face when we see one of those, and it helps the video get seen by a larger audience. Also, of course, if you are looking to possibly lease one of these, leasing's not a bad idea on electric vehicles, particularly new ones. Have a look at the link in the video description, and that will take you to all the latest deals on the MG5 at the time you click. Thanks ever so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.
Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.